You know, I'm going to give you a history lesson.
We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country.
Stop laughing! And when I do, start.
Also, y'all did some nasty-ass jokes on my ass, too.
Funny jokes and unfunny jokes come out of the same birth.
You f***ing guys are unbelievable.
Why are you laughing?
Evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Why You Laughing, a history of comedy podcast. And today, I am pleased to introduce to you Ron and Fez, the best of the Ron and Fez producers. We've done a ton of Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern related episodes, but we haven't done enough Ron and Fez. We've gotten good feedback. People seem to like those. They are probably like, if you're talking about like comedy podcasts, they probably are a third, but they're a distant third. It's like a cult following. But the more people find them, I think the more you fall in love with them. They're similar to Opie and Anthony in that I think they're almost more popular now because of YouTube than they were when they were on the air. And so I toiled over this. I know a big Ron and Fez fan, and I invited him on. I said, I want to, ironically, unmask you because I thought, is it weird to have a conversation with a puppet? And then I said to myself, you know, if any audience is going to be able to accept it, because I take myself more seriously on this show than I do on the Blind Mike Project, but I said if any audience is going to accept a serious conversation with a puppet, it would be someone seeking out a Ron and Fez historical podcast. So I introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on Why You Laughing, Tukey.
Yay!
Very excited to have you, Tukey.
Oh, this is fantastic. I totally forgot that you wanted to unmask me. I can totally do this as Rocco if you want.
No. I invited Rocco on, and I was told Tukey gets numbers. He puts asses in the seats. so that's what we're here for.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think people like to see Tukey more than Rocco or El Horrible or whatever.
It's understandable. Based on how I've heard Rocco's appearance described by a certain stutterer, I can understand. I get it.
So ugly. He's so ugly.
So real quick before we start, because I haven't run into a lot of like genuine Ron and Fez fans, but I've heard you talk about them with more reverence than Stern or O&A or any of these other shows. How were you introduced to Ron and Fez?
In high school, I mean, my dad first introduced me to Howard Stern, and I was big on Howard Stern. And then in high school, Opie and Anthony came on in the afternoon, and then these guys at night, Ron and Fez, were just a totally different vibe. Like they had this late night show. I think not late night, but they were like the nighttime guys. I think their show ended sometime around 11 or 12.
Yes. Yeah. They were 7 to midnight, I think.
Yeah. It was something like that. So it was just like endless. Like once I got out of school, it was Opie and Anthony, Ron and Fez. And that's what I did. Like I would literally just drive, go get fast food, sit in the parking lot and listen to Ron and Fez and kind of picture what these two guys look like, because all I could picture was like Joe Pesci, and then I mean, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, and then some like I don't know, like skinny, like scientist-looking kind of guy with Fez.
Fez looks more than maybe anyone else in the history of radio. Fez looks nothing like how you would picture him,
and he always looks different.
Yeah,
always. He went through a mustache phase. He went through a long hair phase. He goes through beard phases. He goes through totally shaven phases.
Yeah.
His weight always fluctuated. But these guys they weren't like Howard Stern. They weren't like Opie and Anthony. They just had a totally different vibe with the nighttime, and they were like all into wrestling. And you could tell like Ron was into the whole carnival thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it was just so interesting. And even the show, because the whole show, I think best put was that it was a show about the show. Like it was
for sure. And it got that way more and more the more Fez devolved into mental illness. It really became like in the end of the serious days, it was really like that.
Did you guys have a specific look for Fez, or just that he was like skinny in your head? Because I thought for the longest time in my head he just looked like John Cazale from Godfather.
A little bit, yeah, yes, kind of.
Yeah,
I've never seen The Godfather.
Oh God!
The Godfather.
No, I don't watch movies.
Dumb puppet.
I thought he looked like the guy who used to have infomercials with the Riddler jacket on. You know
I
that
oddly
guy?
know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought Fez looked like. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
So yeah, we are doing the Ron and Fez producers today. So we will be covering Billy Staples, Al Dukes, Black Earl, Eastside Dave, and Pepper Hicks and Shelby, I guess, slipped in there as well. The Ron and Fez, honestly, like, again, I'll keep mentioning Howard Stern and O&A because similar styles of program.
You have to.
But right, for sure. But like, and they obviously utilize the backroom guys a ton. But on Ron and Fez, these guys were essentially co-hosts, and part of that was Ron being a carnival barker and knowing how to use these guys. But a lot of that was Fez getting quieter and quieter on the mic as the years went on. So these guys became essentially co-hosts on the show. So really, the producers are used in a way like they never are in any other radio show. So
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what I always liked about the Howard Stern show. I never cared about naked ladies on the internet
I'm the same way, yeah.
on the radio. And even the celebrity guests. Yes, sometimes he got some provocative stuff out of the celebrity guests. But we loved when he would call Baba Booey in, tell me about what John did over the weekend. And the same thing with Ron and Fez. I mean, Earl, Dave, Billy Staples, all those guys. Like you said, they were more like third mics or co-hosts.
Yeah. So we'll get into that. But first, Tukey, where can people find you if they're looking for your stuff?
Oh, just go to tukisoup.com. All the stupidity is there. It's all very stupid. Thank you, Blind Mike, for that.
Yes. And go to blindmike.net for all my stuff. Subscribe, share, comment, like. Helps new people find the show. Go to that on Tukey's channel as well. And more like-minded people will find these episodes. So go to that, blindmike.net. You can subscribe, get early access to these episodes. You could add this 2 weeks early if you were on Patreon or a member on YouTube. So consider becoming a gearhead if you'd like. All
is
right,
this Al Dukes? By the way, is this Al Dukes the same one that hosts a radio show in Maryland right now?
Not Maryland.
Or DC?
It's weird that you. No, I don't know. I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
but oddly enough, Al Dukes is the producer for Boomer and Geo on WFAN and a fan of this program.
Oh, that's fantastic!
He found the first Ron and Fez episode we did and said we nailed it. So,
hi, Al.
Shout out to Al Dukes. What's up, buddy? Probably should add him on instead of Tukey.
Still hate mayonnaise.
But the first guy we're getting into, because me and Tukey have talked about this, he's very similar to someone in the Dabbleverse. You guys see if you can figure out who we're talking about. But me and Tukey have messaged about this guy. Kind of underrated because he was in the WNEW days when they were on at night. I feel like a lot more of the stuff that I listen to from Ron and Fez is from the Sirius XM era, but I will go back and listen to, like, I like falling asleep to old WNEW episodes because there's a nostalgia to it. It sounds like older radio.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a cool, weird nighttime show. And I think the standout producer from that show, whack packer, if you will, was Billy Staples for sure.
Oh,
He was a madman, and he's like, guys like that are made to be backroom guys that you can call and beat up on a radio show.
He was like the crazy stunt guy / call screener / kind of producer, which is exactly like Stuttering John. But unlike Stuttering John, I think Billy Staples had this like childlike charisma about him. Like I don't know anyone who hated Billy. You know, like I don't think Billy had a lot of detractors or whatever.
No, and it seems like, I think this is true of the whole Ron and Fez world. I think more than any other show, people are in on the joke because I think there's a lot more bits than we realized. There's even stuff like when Fez died. I don't know if you heard that episode of Bennington the day after Fez died. It was terribly sad.
Yes, when I want a good cry.
Yes. But they talk about the Steakgate episode where it erupts into a Fez and Pepper Hicks argument. And I always just assumed that was real, never thought anything of it. They laughed and said it was a bit, and Chris Stanley said, like, it was a bit, and then all of a sudden we were in a real argument that I didn't know I was having. Because Fez, for all of his faults, was a master at, like, being in the moment and playing into stuff. And the interesting thing I found, like, listening to these Billy Staples clips is how involved Fez is in, like, running the show and actually, like, ball busting and being a part of the show. Like, he wasn't always this weird guy who wouldn't talk on air. He was a legitimate contributor to the show as a co-host in the WNEW days. But we're starting with Billy Staples performing at Red Bank, opening for Jim Norton. I guess Jim Norton invited him on. Voss was hosting the show, and Billy Staples was invited on to be his opener. Now, in these days, if you're familiar with Opie and Anthony or Howard Stern audiences at comedy shows, they were there to see the guy. They were there to either see Jim Norton or Artie Lang or whatever the case might be. Anyone else, they were there to boo relentlessly. So if you're going to bomb, you're going to have a miserable night. But Billy Staples, tell me if this reminds you of anyone, had impeccable confidence and really believed that he was on par with guys like Jim Norton as far as stand-up goes. So that's where our first clip is, them talking about Billy trying to do stand-up.
You guys just have doubt because you haven't seen me. That's the whole thing.
How far away? I've never seen you. I've seen you here, and you're never funny.
How about, look, I talked to Jim about this already, and he has no problem leaving a couple of tickets under your name at the will call window.
It would be just the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me. You know what would happen if Ronnie and I went there? You would go out on stage, bomb, then we would actually have to face Norton in person that night and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Why would Ronnie and I want to be part of that? Being asked to show up to see you do comedy is like somebody saying, oh, I want you to show up and see your niece get raped. I'd run out there, I'd throw a coat around you and try to bring you to the hospital.
I just want to look out from that stage and see you guys sitting like right in the front row, smiling from ear to ear because you think I'm going to go out there and die when the whole place is rocking and you guys are so surprised and pleased. That would be like the best.
You're saying you're going to rock the place.
I plan on it and it's going to happen.
You're going to rock the Camp Basie Theater on Saturday night.
Of course.
It's amazing confidence based on nothing. Like he's done stand-up before, but he's never killed. He's never sold tickets on his own. Like his confidence is based on nothing, but it's what made him so beautiful as a character because callers would call in and be like, what is this guy, a fucking idiot? And he was unshakable.
100%. Yeah, Billy had that delusional confidence that you need, I guess, to go up and even try stand-up. But yeah, he would talk about how he was a stand-up before, he came on Ron and Fez, and then Ron would kind of grill him about, oh yeah, really? Where'd you travel? Like, because he used to talk about how he would travel to do comedy, much like Chad Zumach.
Well, they have him do jokes. And they're the hackiest. It's like he makes a masturbation joke about Britney Spears. He says something about Britney Spears having a calendar, and then he goes, unfortunately, June and July were stuck together.
Oh God!
And they're like, "Oh, because you jerked off." Yeah. They're just like, "Oh, really, Billy? Very good." Like it was the hackiest shit. But he sits there like, "See, guys, I'm gonna kill."
But when Ron would grill him, it would turn out that Billy like maybe did one night here, one night there,
right? Of course, yeah.
And much like John, but also like John, Billy claimed that he used to send in jokes to the Tonight Show. Like,
is that right?
Yeah, he used to claim. Well, he claimed to be a writer for Jay Leno, but then I think they got him to admit that he was just one of those faxers.
Oh, a Mike Morse, if you will.
The parallels between Billy Staples and John Melendez are tremendous.
We'll get into more, but the other thing I wanted to note from that clip was how alive Fez is, and like a genuinely good ball buster. Like if you just listen to the Ron and Fez show from whatever 2008 on or whatever year you want to pick, you'd be like, oh, this guy he's a mental patient that Ron has on with him. If you listen to WNEW, like he's the host of the show and Ron's the funny guy.
Right, yeah, because always in the later years, it was obvious that Ron was basically the number one mic, but Fez would still consider himself a number one mic as well, and it would drive Ron crazy and the fans because it's like we remember what you were, Fez, and that's why a lot of people ask me where should I start with Ron and Fez, and I always say you have to start in the WNEW years because you have to see how drastic the change is between Fez in WNEW and then his kind of decline in JFK years to then XM and Sirius and bye.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great playlists. There's people like I'm trying to think like Oh Buddies.
Oh Hey
YouTube
Buddies.
and
Mike Fingers.
That's what I was trying to think of. Mike Fingers.
Disco Dog, I think, or
bunch of great channels for Ron and Fez content. They have great playlists. So, like any of these clips, I recommend searching on YouTube if you're not familiar with them, going down that rabbit hole. There's a great playlist called Fez Whatley's Descent into Madness. That's maybe where I would start. But we're still on this the Red Bank fiasco here. So I think now they're talking about the review. This is after the show went horribly wrong, right? This is the review.
Yep.
All right, let's.
It's pretty rough. The review was rough.
Yeah, not what you would call a rave whatsoever. Not even close.
Right off in the beginning, it says, watching Billy Staples set at the Count Basie Theater fell somewhere between witnessing a seal clubbing and watching Robert De Niro play Russian roulette in Vietnam prison camps.
Wow.
Billy Staples, a stand-up comedian and a regular on the Ron and Fez show. You know what to do? Write to them right away and offer to sue them for using our names.
All right, we'll do.
That's redbank.com. When Billy performed in front of a sold-out crowd at the recent Jim Norton show. Well, I really shouldn't say perform. Ouch. It was more like he was ripped to shreds by the ravenous hordes. I believe he spelled hordes wrong, Fez, but I'm not sure. Of fans that made up the audience.
So this is a Jim Norton show, and so far everything has been about how horrible Billy was.
By the way, there's a picture of Billy.
What's beautiful about the Ron and Fez show is this is what happened next after that review. I think during the week they read that review. That week, Billy Staples didn't show up for work. And on Wednesday, they're like, do we fire this guy? Like, what's going on? and Wednesday or Thursday of that week, he calls he's been located in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the Poconos.
He drove out to Pennsylvania because he wanted to be out of frequency distance. He didn't want to be able to get the Ron and Fez show on his radio.
And I'm sure there was some bender involved as well.
He was on a bender. He was drunk. Who knows what else he was doing? Billy struggled with alcohol and substances throughout his life. So like he's all fucked up when he calls up. And the beauty of the Ron and Fez show is like when I go back to and listen to this now, I'm like, oh, was this a bit? Because if it is, it's so beautifully acted. Like it seems impossible that it would be a bit because you're like, these guys aren't that good of actors. Billy Staples tried to be an actor. I think he was on like Baywatch or something for an episode.
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna talk about this later, but do you have you seen any of Tales from the Satellite, Eastside Dave's show that he does for Patreon?
The one he does now? No. I mean, we could talk about it, but no, I don't have any clips or anything.
Oh, okay. No, we could talk about it when he goes that. But basically, he runs down a lot of the classic moments from the Ron and Fez show he was involved in, and he kind of explains what was a bit and what wasn't. It's very fascinating.
Oh, really? I'll have to check that out. That is interesting.
Patreon.com/Eastside Dave. There's a plug, Dave, man. Come on, give Tukey some love. Why do you keep blocking me?
He blocks you?
Well, I don't know. They take my comments down. Like it's weird. Eastside Dave only gets like 6 live viewers or something. I'm sorry, Dave, if that's not true. Maybe you get 20. Maybe you get 20. You maybe get 20. That's like, but sometimes I'll just write like TWO and put a green heart and then it'll disappear. And he did block me on Twitter for a while, but that I understood because Tukey was aggressively trying to get his attention. I'm a big fan, Dave. When we talk about you, much love.
Guys, tell Eastside Dave to unblock Tukey. But let's do this one more clip from the Red Bank fiasco. I think this is Billy on his bender that we discussed.
How you doing, man?
Okay.
Hi, Billy. Do you realize what day it is?
Wednesday, Thursday, something.
Thursday. When do we start work here? We started work on a Tuesday. So you're a little late for work, big man.
Yeah, well, I don't think you'd want me around.
So you're saying you quit?
No, I'm not quitting. I just need to get my head together.
Why wouldn't we want you around?
Why? Because it's no use, man. It's just no use having me around. Everything I do just turns to crap.
Yes, we know that.
That's part of your charm.
It's not charming to me right now.
You got to keep your chin up, big man. All of them.
Now, Billy, did this gig go as bad as they're letting on?
Probably worse.
It's amazing, like, and that's what makes this guy such a beautiful character. It's amazing to go from the confidence we heard, where he's like, "I am going to crush, I'm going to tear the roof off the fucking place," to this call that you hear, where he's like, "I might as well just kill myself." No, I guess no one wants old Billy around.
Now Billy lives in his mom's house in Florida.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah.
Billy did live with his mom for a while. That was another comparison to John.
Billy got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's crazy, the parallels. Like, if you really go through it. I'm assuming you don't have any clips from his actual performance, because the audio is rough.
Yeah, no, that's why I didn't really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, everyone should go. If you haven't heard,
it's a 5-hour saga on YouTube.
Right.
If you want to go check it out.
Orange Ball of Failure, right?
Yes. Yeah. Because he was dressed in a big orange shirt.
Because it's so crazy, because it's exactly like what happened to Bill Burr in Philadelphia, but it was years before.
Yeah.
And if Billy just had handled it like Bill Burr did, he could have been
a star.
Hot shit, you know? Yeah. But
yeah,
no,
it's how the Bill Burr set could have gone if Bill was a hack comedian. We have one more Billy Staples clip. I think that to me, it's one I go back to fairly often. Do you remember Billy Staples' mystery date?
Of course.
With lobster hands.
Is that lobster claws?
Lobster claws, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they Ron and Fez put out a call to their listeners and said, we want to do a Billy Staples mystery date. And a lady called in and said, "I'll come in and have a date with Billy." So they, off the air, gave her the address to the place. She showed up, and they have a few drinks. Now, Billy is an on-again, off-again alcoholic. This is an off-again time. He was
mostly off again.
He was off the rails here. And by the way, this is like an hour into them drinking, maybe less. Mm-hmm. But this is how fucked up Billy got very quickly. And again, see if you can draw any parallels to someone we've mentioned.
Jenny, the one girl who called in when Billy asked for a mystery date, she is here, and they've been playing a little get-to-know-you game called Slam Time that they came up with.
Slam time!
Slam time!
They drink, obviously.
Where are our mystery daters?
Okay, gotta stop cursing, honey.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We've been telling you that for a while. Not allowed to curse. You said Billy's falling around a lot?
Yeah.
No, was he trying to kiss you already?
Yeah.
All right, let's see your move, Billy, that you make on it. Let's just hear, what's the type of thing that you would say to get her ready?
Let's see your move.
Well, Jenny, you're the kind of girl I've been looking for. How about we suck face right now?
Oh my God.
He's really drunk, isn't he?
No.
Did that work on you, Jenny?
Yeah, I hear that about, 14 million times a night, so try something new.
Damn, I'm not used to girls who are like this.
Jesus Christ.
Like what?
That loose.
He was a disaster. But then again, what's beautiful about Billy is like he comes on the air and issues an apology the next day.
Mm-hmm,
I think there's a montage of all of his apologies where he would write a formal letter and say how sorry he was and how he made a horrible mistake, but he's going to learn from it and be a better man.
He's a victim of disease, horrible disease called addiction and alcoholism.
Yes.
And Billy, again, he just had this like charisma. I think that he is next to Eastside Dave. He's the number 2 producer I always go back to listen to clips, because I don't know. I no matter how many times I've heard Ron and Fez, I can just listen to it over and over, and
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Billy Staples to me has become the most re-listenable because I think he is the focal point of a lot of his, and it feels more real. Where like Eastside Dave would do a lot of characters and stuff. I was just more interested in the type of bullshit that Billy Staples was doing, and like obviously we drew a lot of parallels to Stuttering John, but one thing that I think is a massive difference is I don't know if you ever heard. There's a segment where Billy Staples comes in years later at XM. Like he's not working for the show or anything. He just comes in to hang out as a guest. I think it's Mark Zito, another Ron and Fez producer.
Yes.
That was giving Fez shit. And Billy's giving him like a talking to. Like, how can you talk to this man this way? Do you realize what he's done in radio? And like you could tell Billy has an understanding of what his role was and what it was supposed to be. And so I think that's a massive difference is like even though Billy didn't go on to fame and fortune and hosting the Tonight Show or anything, Billy was very much aware of what his role was supposed to be on a radio show, which I think is critical for your mental health, if nothing else, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. Billy totally knew what his role was on the show, but he was always looking for more. He was always going out on casting calls. He was actually in the Incubus music video for
oh, right.
What was that song? Something Mute?
Yeah.
I don't remember. But then eventually MTV cut the intro down because it was too long. So then Billy wasn't really, he was in the end of the video.
He was, you know, I'm just remembering another one of my favorites was he was on the first ever episode of Crossing Over with John Edwards.
Yes.
And he believed, like he absolutely believes it.
Yeah, because Billy lost his dad when he was like 10 or something.
Yes.
They were on a camping trip and I think Billy went to go like drink beer and smoke instead of go fishing with his dad or something. It was very kind of parallel to Artie Lang. I might have that a little wrong, but I know he wasn't there at the time his dad passed away, and that always stuck with Billy. And yes, he was the first ever to air, but not on TV. It was just the pilot episode,
and then it aired later. I think, yeah, it wasn't the first episode that came out. Yeah. So we're, you know what, Craig, too. By the way, if you could take timestamps for each producer in case people want to skip around, I just thought of that. So. If that's not too much of a pain in the ass.
Stamp.
Thank you, sir. So Bill, we're not done talking about Billy because he's involved in the Al Dukes clips I prepared as well. Al Dukes, big fan of the show. Shout out Al. But Al was kind of obviously Al Dukes and Billy were on the Ron and Fez show at the same time during the WNEW days, and Al was kind of like the straight man to Billy's zany character. Like Al was legitimately, he's a guy that got his master's. He wanted to be like behind the scenes in radio. He wanted to be in management. He took himself very seriously. And I think in his own way was playing into the bits by not playing with them at all. As you'll hear, the clips I chose for Al Dukes were the shitting on his check incident.
Yay!
So they, I guess they tasked Billy Staples with thinking of something creative to do with his paycheck, which you'll hear here.
Billy came up with this stunt, an idea for Al, a way of being friends with Al. He is in the bathroom. He's about to take care of business.
Okay.
Take care of business. We can't say exactly which one.
Got some business to do.
But again, we're talking about the elevator to floor 2. All right, now Billy's in there, Al. He's in the bathroom. He's about to take care of business. He has with him your paycheck from today that he is going to, let's say, decorate. Can we say decorate for you?
Oh, okay.
So he's keeping that in there. When your chances, I guess he wants this to spaz. When you get your check, it'll be covered in staples. We can't say that. We probably had to dump out of that one.
Right.
But yeah, that's exactly what it's going to do to your check.
Billy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, that would be a very bad move on your part.
Can you hear him, Billy?
Yeah, I don't care what he thinks. I'm still working working my business here.
Al Dukes was kind of the voice of every like sane human being that was listening to the show, where he'd be like, no, you're not going to do that, obviously. And they'd be like, Al, you're on the radio. Come on, play along. He's like, I'm not going to have fecal matter on my check. I need to cash it. What are you talking about?
They had like a literal Felix and Oscar type relationship.
That's
like,
perfect.
It was perfect.
Yes, that's what I was trying to go. Yes, exactly.
Could you not say poop on the radio?
You couldn't say shit, obviously. I guess. I guess they could.
Yeah, it kind of depended on
the context matters. If they're saying he's taking a poop, maybe they couldn't have. I don't know.
Yeah, there was weird stuff.
Because I remember like Louis would get in trouble a lot on O&A where he wouldn't curse, but they would have to dump out of him like just referring to certain sexual acts, even it might have been like the medical terminology, but like the way he was talking about him, they had to dump out of. So there are a lot of real weird rules in terrestrial radio. Oh no, sorry, Tuki.
No, I was gonna say they must have been saying shit though, because this was way before 9/11, like kind of deal.
Right.
It was like 2000.
It might have been. This might have been like after, like 01 or 02. It might have been right around that.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. This was probably right after 9/11.
It's how we all healed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just check.
Yeah, so let's hear. So this is so now Billy Staples comes back into the studio and tries to hand him a shit-covered check, and there's a melee in the studio. Like Billy's chasing Al around with it. It's a whole fiasco. So you'll hear some of that play out here.
Billy, head down the hall for a second. I don't want them all mad. Al, that check, you can still cash it.
No, I can't cash it, and then he wiped it on my arm.
Right, that's
and then Al chased Billy back out to the green room. That's when the fat F word came out.
Shot 16.
Shot 16. Keep drinking, girls. Fezzy, he actually just yelled at him, nice health violation.
No, it's ridiculous.
That's not usually what you yell.
They will not stand for that here. Who do you know from the health code?
It's a business. This is still a business.
Okay, do you realize we had pig intestines and ox schlong in here earlier? Do you realize that?
I know.
Sick. Al, that's disgusting.
It is disgusting. And it's in the room now too.
Oh my God.
Bathroom stunk.
All right,
Oh my gosh. Do you have another shirt?
Close the grill down. We can no longer serve food in here.
Hear that, people? Just salads and cold stuff.
And I don't want to say anything about you, but I don't want your crappy checks in here when I got ladies there, I guess.
I know. Do that and bring it in here. You don't do it in the first place. It's so stupid. What kind of stunt is that?
Shot 17.
Jump in front of a crowd where they disappear again and you land on your fat ass.
All right, Al. Let's not get personal.
But what?
That does not get personal. But that quote to me perfectly defines Al Duke's role. Nice health code violation, pal.
Oh, 100%.
That was his tough talk.
He wiped it on my arm.
But he, like, I guess he kind of played the role of like a Tom Chiasano with the Stern Show, where Al almost in a way represented management. He was a producer. He wasn't
without
he wasn't
the power.
He wasn't higher ranking than them, but he was a straight-laced guy who, at least, like, if according to the audience probably would say a guy that didn't get the show. My take on it is a guy who got the show and knew his role was to be the like they would call him gay, and he's like, I don't understand why that's funny. I'm not gay. I'm just not gay, so I don't get why that's funny. Like, you'd get very angry about it.
100%. Yeah, just saying that all these guys knew their role is just so spot on.
Yeah.
Because, if they didn't, it could have gone, horribly the other way. Like if Al tried to be outrageous and like it just wasn't his personality. I think that's the one thing about Ron and Fez. It was just such a personality-driven show that Ron was able to get everyone, to really be themselves and really kind of entertaining.
Now, did we gloss over? So we're moving to Black Earl as our next topic, right?
That's right.
So did we gloss over? Were you? How familiar are you with their WJFK era? Because I haven't listened to a ton of that, to be honest.
I have. Again, if you go to Oh Hey Buddies, he has a great playlist. He has everything broken down in playlists, and you can get the WJFK playlist. It's interesting because they weren't in Washington at first; they were still in New York.
Right.
And so Billy was there. Mikey D, who was another producer, very fascinating guy. Look up his trip to Great Adventure as a kid.
We talked a little bit about him in the Fez Whatley Feuds episode. We did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Fez Whatley's arch rival.
Yes.
But yeah, WJFK, the first part of it is interesting when, Billy's still there and Mikey's still there. Once they kind of move down there, you can kind of see how Fez is kind of not the same guy he was. And that's where Ron always said Fez started to lose his shit once they moved to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and he thought that maybe moving back to New York would have straightened him out, and they just never. It was a never-ending snowball that kept picking up steam.
Yeah, he hated it.
Yeah, so Black Earl Douglas is a guy who worked with them at WNEW. He was involved with the Opie and Anthony show a little bit as well. So he worked
Scott
at WNEW.
Mooney.
Yeah, that's right, yes. And when they came back to New York and worked for XM, now they're in middays after Opie and Anthony. They started, I think at this time they started at noon and then eventually moved to 11, if I have that right.
Yeah, I think it was noon to 3. Yeah, and then 11, eventually 11 to 3.
So this is Earl Douglas might be I said Billy Staples is my favorite. I think Earl Douglas might be my second favorite for similar reasons to what I said about Billy. Earl was a punching bag and like didn't get it but got it. Like I don't think he always knew why messing with him was funny, but he knew to go along with it once it was getting laughs, you know? So what do we have from Earl here?
This is him walking off.
Oh yeah, this is a brain fog incident, which our pal Dr. Steve was involved. Dr. Steve's involved in a couple of these clips, but Dr. Steve calls to say basically Earl has some health issues. But before that happens, Earl's being confronted about an incident at one of the Unmasked shows. Unmasked is an interview series that Ron Bennington did. And Earl was trying to warm up the crowd, which Fez usually does, but Earl was trying to take the reins on this one and make some announcements and things, and he's getting a lot of shit for it, and it really culminates into a lot of anxiety for Earl here.
So we just need to go over a couple of ground rules. Please turn your cell phones completely off. We can't even have them on vibrate because apparently it messes up with the broadcast. So please turn your cell phones off.
Is that why we're supposed
we don't want to be...
Where are we supposed to laugh?
Let me finish!
That's why you deal with a heckler?
I think we're getting to you.
I'd be back there going like this. Wow, this warm-up is going a little scary.
Is there anything that Fez hasn't said before? Is there any new material?
I'm not Fez. I'm not trying to be Fez. Fez is funny and an incredible warm-up act. There's no way.
Hey. What the fuck?
It's a co-host.
On mass.
Well, you cunt.
Let me finish. Please. Why can't I ever get a chance to finish a sentence? Why?
Oh, come back. You're abandoning your post.
Hey.
Slam of a door. Sound effects. Slam of a door. Dave, if you could please go move to Earl's position, please.
That hey was just so funny.
Earl, you cunt.
Hey!
I like in the last clip they couldn't say shit, and now Fez is yelling cunt on the air.
Right.
Yeah.
We are at XM.
So like Black Earl, like he fainted on air before.
Febreze the fainting goat.
That's right. Yes, he. I think it comes up in this whole argument too, where there was a time where he essentially like lived in the studio. Like he would stay there till all hours of the night because the XM studios got the Yankees games and he couldn't watch them at home.
Well, it was nicer. He had a black mold issue in his home that he never took care of at one point. I don't know what his situation is now, but yeah, that was a very long running thing with them that he would spend weekends there, nights there because he'd watch the Yankee games, like you said. Earl was a weird guy, man, but
Yeah,
you kind of knew that just like Howard and Robin, for some reason, Ron was always going to have Earl with him. Even though Earl had a period where he left the show for a while, I always had a feeling like Earl will always be part of this show and part of Ron's life.
And he left for a long time too, and then came back on Bennington. Not even right away, like a couple of years into Bennington, Earl reappeared.
He was the vibe manager at the Hard Rock Cafe, which meant he picked the songs that they played.
Was that his job, really?
Yeah, pretty much.
The vibe manager. That should not be a paid job.
Well, Hard Rock Johnny, the basically the head guy over at the Hard Rock, he had built such a relationship with Ron and Fez because of 9/11, he went down and helped, and Ron and Fez, they were going down and bar crawling and all that kind of stuff. And he just, I guess he felt like I have to do something because Earl, once he left the Ron and Fez show for no reason,
right?
I don't think he I guess he thought like radio stations were going to be like, oh shit, Earl Douglas is available, but that didn't happen. So Hard Rock Johnny made him vibe manager.
Yeah, there were a few times where like he would walk off the show or quit or have these weird. What's the next clip, Craig? Before I get ahead of myself, I forget if we have the clip of this or not.
His grandma.
Okay, well, before we get there, the follow up of that, the clip we just listened to was Ron saying that Earl has returned on light duty.
Yes,
which means that his workload has been lessened, as if he had a stroke or something.
And they would already complain that he did nothing. Like all of them.
So we're gonna end on. I figured we would end like this would play us out at the end of the show. I wanted to end on the Black Earl song, which I think might be. It's one of the greatest parody songs ever written in radio.
I think Ron and Fez in general had some of the best parody songs ever written. Like Sleeves, he made some. Well, that wasn't even a parody.
Guy,
that wasn't even a parody song. That was original songs that he made. And then Paranoid, he used to make songs. Really good shit.
The reason we're ending with it instead of playing it now is I figure if we get copyright claimed, we can just cut it out at the end rather than cut out a chunk here. But there's a line in that song that I think it's so brilliant because even if you don't know the show, it paints the perfect picture of Black Earl. It's sung by Anthony's brother Joe Cumia, and it's I look busy but I'm not. I'm just walking around. Pick up some papers and I put them back down. It's such imagery of who this man is. And all these comedy radio shows that we're talking about have this guy, whether it's E-Rock or Baba Booey, the guy who everyone collectively, the entire staff says, this man doesn't do any work.
Yes! When you said there was a line, I knew you were going to say, pick up some papers and put them back up because I knew that line has always stuck with me.
I've been that guy. I've worked with that guy. Everyone knows that guy. You're just walking around looking busy, like George Costanza.
100%.
So this next clip kind of melds Earl into Eastside Dave. We'll get into Dave after this. But this is talking about Earl's grandma. Now, this is one that is a bit. It's where Dave would make fun of Earl's grandmother, and Earl would have an extreme reaction to that.
What are you doing?
If he's going to push my buttons, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to react.
By choking? What is it that you said, Dave? What had him so angry? I was just saying that I talked to his grandmother, and she goes, Earl, your cock is so small.
Just take it back.
But your cock will still feel good when you come up to you in heaven and choke me.
Oh, he's choking!
Earl, he can't breathe. Earl, stop choking him. Earl, what is wrong with you? Are you all right, Dave?
I think I am, Rod.
And he did that for no reason?
No reason at all. It's Good Friday.
You must have said something.
Well, I was just talking about his grandmother. And it's like, Earl, I have a big cunt. Next time in heaven.
Oh, he's choking him. Earl, what are you doing? Earl.
The beauty, like, I think in different contexts, you could hear a bit like this done by different radio shows and be like, oh, this is hacky. Yeah. But, like, the beauty of Ron and Fez was Earl was legitimately, obviously, Earl's not choking Dave. It's a workplace. That's obviously not happening. But Dave is legitimately saying awful things about his dead grandmother.
The giant cunt.
Earl, I'm up here blowing Hitler. It was incredible. I actually worked at Free FM. I interned for the radio chick who, she used to go on right before Ron and Fez. So I would I met Ron and Fez, their whole crew, big guys. Like Ron is short, but he was a big dude.
Yeah.
Fez was a big dude. Then I was in the same intern class as Chris Stanley.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so if I had just gotten on Ron and Fez instead of Radio Chick, perhaps.
What they could have done with Tukey would have been.
Well,
we'd have been on this episode.
I think Chris was actually an XM intern, but he used to come over to Free FM too, which was genius. Like I would have done the same thing. Like if I had a chance, I would have been like, where are we going next? We're going to XM, we're going to Free FM. Like I would have been, and that's actually, I mean, I got hired because of like being an intern and just like really putting myself out there. And I just wish, man, I got on the Ron and Fez show because it was just so cool to watch.
That would be a perfect fit. Yeah.
Yes. It would have been fantastic.
But Ron and Fez had an interesting like scheduling too, because like even on WNEW, there was a period of time where I don't know what happened if maybe it was after like they got rid of Don and Mike or JV and Elvis or one of those shows. I don't know when it was exactly.
I think it was after O&A. Wasn't it?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if you know what I mean. What I was going to say was like when they were doing nights and then also filling in on middays.
Yeah.
So they were doing 2 shows a day. Was that after
I think so, because there was a period where WNEW still was talk format.
Right.
After they got fired. So yeah, I think
that's insane to be on the radio 8 hours in a day.
I could be wrong, but yeah, I mean, the Free FM years, they were basically doing that same shit too.
That's wild.
It is because they would leave the XM studios and then come to Free FM. I think it was probably around 7:00 at night, and then they probably went until at least like 11.
Yeah,
and it was weird. It was crazy. And to be funny that every day for like 8 hours. That's why Ron will always be like my biggest like hero as far as comedy goes. Like the fact that he could hold a whole 4-hour plus show, sometimes 8 hours a day, by himself essentially.
And they don't talk politics at all. Like no, I mean if you listen enough, I guess maybe you could guess, but like no one really knows who Ron was voting for or anything, like there's zero political talk. There's sports talk, but not in the way of like breaking down last night's game or anything like that. There is no like these massive time killer topics they didn't get into. It was purely about like you said, it was kind of a show within a show where it was almost about their own world, and then Ron would bring up pop culture topics that he was interested in, but it really was like this self-sustaining show. Like it's kind of like I'm lucky enough to be on a show like this with Kirk's show, where it's like Kirk could legitimately go a week without talking about a news topic. It's just about like this inside show stuff if you wanted to. And that to me is like incredibly impressive, because if you ever try to do a show and think like, well, just talk about my life, you very quickly realize like it's hard to fill an hour with that. Never mind 4 hours a day or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Everyone thinks, oh, I'll just talk about my life. And then you realize, oh shit, my life's not that interesting.
I'm pretty boring.
I have said a million times that I feel like what we have built in this kind of dabbleverse, hackverse, whatever you want to call community, is a lot like the days of the Ron and Fez message boards. Like everyone knows everyone by screen names. There's a lot of inside stuff. If you're not following, what's going on, you kind of get lost. Like I used to try and get people into Ron and Fez, and they'd go, I have no idea who these people they're talking about. Who's Sheepy? Who's Frenchie? Who are these people? And it's like
Happy Typing Girl.
Happy Typing Girl. And then who's HTG? Oh, well, that's Happy Typing Girl. Well, who is she? Why is she on the show?
At Minifan events, people will come up to me and be like, hey, I'm Kirk's desk. And
yes.
Like, hey, I know you. Good to meet you, man.
Well, Ron has said it before about live events, and I feel the same thing. It's the same way, because I'll be at a live event and they'll be like, hey, I'm Mark. And I'm like, well, who are you on YouTube? And they'll be like, oh, I'm, Aaron's bleeding dick or something. I'm like, oh, okay, Aaron's bleeding dick.
We all know you.
Yeah, we all know you.
So now we're getting into Eastside Dave. Earl and Dave were there at the same time. Earl was technically Dave's boss. Dave was like an intern when he started, I believe, right?
Okay, so Dave never was actually an intern. He lied about his radio experience.
Okay.
And he originally was just a caller. And then Ron would claim that he would see Dave down outside the studios working a hot dog cart. But that wasn't true. He would just try to keep Dave's name on the show, because he really liked Dave. And then eventually, I guess a producer spot did open, and literally like I think it was like the beginning of January 2006 was when Dave started. But they did bring him in a little bit before then, and hinting that he was going to become a producer, I remember.
So I think Dave, of any of these guys, other than maybe Chris Stanley, had the biggest role on the show because it like he really emerged as Fez was starting to talk less and less, and for all intents and purposes became Ron's co-host. And like you said, Ron obviously liked him a lot. They had a lot of similar interests. You could tell Dave has a tremendous amount of respect. Calls him Mr. B. Has a ton of respect for Ron. So Dave's role like really emerged on the show. So what's our first Eastside Dave clip?
Midnight Rider.
Oh, this is another long saga. If you want to find the full thing on YouTube, Dave would do a bunch of characters, and some like to me, some were funny. Some like it was funny how bad they were. But the Midnight Rider is probably his most notable character.
Here he comes in. Who is this, Fez? This is our new producer to the Ron and Fez show. Ronnie, please welcome, from parts unknown, the Midnight Rider.
Thank you very much, baby. It's great to be here. What are we talking about today? We're talking about producers, Ron and B.
Yeah, we're talking about.
Is that what we're talking about, Fez? We're talking about producers.
We are talking about producers.
Let me introduce myself then.
Yeah.
I am a plumber's son. I'm a person of the people, a new producer of Purpose. I gotta run to keep from hiding, baby. And my name is the Midnight Rambler.
What is it?
The Midnight Rider.
Oh,
The Midnight Rider. Yes.
I was so scared. I thought it was the Midnight Rambler.
No. My name is the Midnight Rider. Here to quench and give you your dreams, baby.
All right, is there any reason, Fuzzy, that the Midnight Rider is wearing?
Yes.
Well, he's a shy guy. All right, he's wearing
from parts unknown. I'm from my identity cannot be known.
Yeah.
Ron and B, don't you understand? It's a delicate situation for the rider.
That XM background check can be pretty thorough.
Yeah.
So this is his way of making sure we can get him right in here, right to work.
I got that mask. I slipped right past that Puerto Rican fella. He said he was a master of something. He said I'm a master Poe or something. I don't know what that is. I'm from, down in the South where people ride.
All right.
Master Poe, by the way, another great Opie and Anthony character that we'll have to cover someday. Weird guy. But what that clip to me screams of how Ron and Fez really threaded the needle of like 1 inch to the left or right, they could have been considered a hack radio show. You know what I mean? But they were tongue in cheek enough, made fun of themselves enough, were in on the bit totally. Like if you turn on the radio station here in Boston or out in Colorado or wherever Tukey is, if you just turn on some radio station, there could be a hack radio guy who's like, well, producer Dave has actually been fired and we've replaced him. Who is this man? Is that the Midnight Rider? And you'd be like, oh, what a fucking cornball. Like, who is it? But the way Ron and Fez were able to do it, they just pulled it off in a way that everyone was in on it and understood it.
100%. And obviously Dave stole this idea from me 18 years before I did it. Because yes, I play a masked character. But again,
I forget. I'm like, could you imagine some hacks doing this? I forget who I'm talking to.
Yes, Mike, I can. But again, I would say out of all the actual radio personalities, Eastside Dave was probably the biggest influence on me as far as his originality. I thought bypassed any other producer in radio. Like there were probably better radio producers, but as far as just an original, like a true original, and coming up with his own ideas and own characters, and really stepping up, like you said, when Fez basically went through his quiet years. I mean, I just have to respect Dave for that, and he was just a huge influence.
And it was a shame like how it ended with Dave, because essentially like he was asking for them to cover his like bus fare into the city. He was basically like him traveling into the city wasn't worth it for him to work there anymore.
Right?
They wouldn't give him a raise, and that's all while like we said, he's essentially co-hosting the show. And Fez is making a lot more money than him. So it's a wild thing. And it's unfortunate how it ended, which kind of leads to our next clip in the sense that it did cause a lot of tension between Fez and Dave. And this is where, like, understandably, you started to hear producers talking back to Fez, talking down to Fez, giving him shit. That really started with Dave because Dave was shouldering a lot of this Fez's burden. So this is one of their tiffs here when Dave was out sick.
And here's the thing:
it's our buddy Dr. Steve.
Comes when the heart is starving for oxygen, right? So, the first thing that happens with pericarditis pain is it lasts longer. You know, a heart attack will either go away.
Don't worry, Doc. Don't worry, Doc. I'm going to be in there tomorrow. I'm going to be in there, and I'll see Fez face to face to see.
Oh, good. Dave. Dave, I
don't worry about it.
I don't want you to come in here until you're ready.
This sounds like a very weak person.
I'll be ready tomorrow, Fez, because God knows I've fucking helped you out, never fucking doubted you for 1 second in these thousands of shows you've taken off.
Oh,
you know what?
Who's got the better track record here now?
Fucking do. And why do you think I'm in so much fucking pain?
Dave,
you fucking cocksucker.
All right, that's the downstalking, I'm sure. That's the downstalking, I'm sure.
Here I am, right smack in the middle of something again.
Oh, Dr. Steve.
Oh, you are incorrigible, Dr. Steve. Just
Dr.
a lovable
Death.
rascal. It always brings some horrible news, I'm sure.
It is so weird to hear Dr. Steve on these old shows and then know he's texting me novels at the same time. I don't know if you get
writing roast jokes about me.
Yes. I love you, Dr. Steve. Oh, he's so wonderful.
But yeah, like now I'm glad you said that about Eastside Dave show because I'd be really curious to go and listen to that because I want to know how much of like the beefs with Fez were bits because you're listening and you're thinking the balls on this guy to question these people who are essentially doing his job.
Yeah, 100%. It's called Tales from the Satellite. You can get it when it first comes out on Patreon. And then I think he puts it out for free on YouTube about a month later or so. There's a bunch of free ones on YouTube. And actually going back to Midnight Rider, that is like a 70-hour saga.
Yes, it's very long. Yeah.
I think it's like 7-10-hour plus videos. It got me through from my drive from New Jersey to Colorado when I first drove out here. It is a tremendous, I wish I knew the channel, but you'll know exactly what it is. Just type in Eastside Dave Midnight Rider.
Yeah.
And that is a great road trip saga.
Yeah, so we're winding. I think we have 2 clips left, right? We're winding down in our producer archives here. But one I wanted to know. So, like we said, Eastside Dave, unfortunately, that kind of came to an end. Chris Stanley basically slid into Eastside Dave's role and was very different in the sense that he didn't do the characters or any of the but like as far as being an ear for Ron to bounce off of. Chris Stanley was one of the better ones at that, where it was just a guy that got Ron, and they had similar interests, and they could talk about their interests. But before we get to Chris Stanley, I do want to talk quickly about another guy I liked. He was a little weirdo who ended up producing a podcast I loved, Tuesdays with Stories. I think he's worked on some other popular podcasts that you may have heard of. But Shelby, who was very confrontational with Fez. But this is a story. We talked about him in the Fez Whatley Feuds episode as well. But I just wanted to play this because I thought it was an interesting saga. Again, this was Ron and Fez's relationships with their producers and their interns. This is Shelby going to Fez's Thanksgiving dinner.
Couldn't get reservations when we added one more person.
Who'd you add?
Shelby.
No, you only took Shelby there to tease your mom?
Yes.
Did it work?
Yes. My mother was very quiet all throughout dinner. Very quiet the rest of her trip.
Why does that make you happy? Why does hurting your mom's feelings at Thanksgiving after flying her up here make you feel good?
Because if I ever do get a real boyfriend, I want to test this reaction.
Fez, Shelby, here's what Fez looks. Fez looks like he just is the producer of Kinky Boots with his assistant / twink.
So Fez brought a staff member to Thanksgiving dinner to pose as his twink boyfriend to infuriate his older religious mother.
That's why Fez was the best. Fez always went for the bit. Like, it was just insane. Like, he used to wear the same shirt every day.
Yes, for no reason.
For no reason. He started wearing a toupee for no reason. Like,
shaved his head. He didn't need it. He shaved his head and wore a toupee.
But then I always thought originally he was wearing it over his real hair, and then he lost the bet. I think he lost the bet and had to shave his hair. And then he started to wear it. Yeah, but he's just Fez was a pro wrestler.
Yeah, for sure.
Like 100%.
And Shelby, that clip to me was just a reminder of like how Ron and Fez treated all their interns and stuff. Like interns were a massive part too, where well, like we said, with like Chris Stanley and these guys that started, Shelby was an intern, but particularly towards the end, like interns would just be in there hanging out on the show. And so you'll go back and listen to some old Ron and Fez clips and you're like, who the fuck is this voice? And then like you're it's just fucking intern Joe.
Yeah, Popcorn.
Who was there for 3 months. Yeah, Popcorn or whoever.
Or what was his name? There was one Joe. What was his?
There were a bunch
Kokomo
of
Joe
girls
or
that
something
came
like
through
that.
there. Lily was another big part of the show too. We could have had a clip of
Yes.
She was definitely a big. Earl like secretly wanted to fuck her, but would never admit to it.
Well, he brought her on a date, like Ron and his chick, and then Earl and Lily like went out all together. So Ron thought like, oh shit, Earl has like a girlfriend.
Yeah.
But then he learned that Earl just really wanted to bang Lily, and she had no interest in him. Mainly because he was black. Oh no.
So yeah, they used the Ron and Fez show was an opportunity for like no other for low level producers or interns.
100%. That's why I was so pissed when I didn't get on that show as an intern.
Oh yeah,
because I knew.
Sorry to keep rubbing it in.
I knew I could I just knew like I would get a ton of airtime if I was with Ron and Fez, because you're right. That was probably the #1 show that utilized interns, or at least gave interns a shot to show what you could do.
And not like, hey, eat bull testicles.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean? Like they were actually having conversations and part of the show. So we'll close with Chris Stanley here. This is him fucking up an ad read.
Sidebar, I have Chris saying sharded.
All right, let's hear this bullshit fucking...
You gave it away. All right, go play it.
Inside, Tito still makes his vodka by hand on the same land where he started it all. And proud to be made.
Oh, I am fucking humiliated. I am humiliated beyond belief.
I feel bad. I love Tito. I love his product. I love him.
Now it's covered in shit.
I was fucking laughing so hard. I came so close to sharding. Oh, fuck. All right, let's hear it again.
Handmade vodka inside. Tito still makes his vodka by hand on the same land where he started it all. In Austin, Texas. And he's proud to be made in the U.S.
Oh, God.
You know, I thought people were just nitpicking. It doesn't sound like I say started right there.
Chris Stanley still works on the Bennington show, by the way. And I think is probably, I mean, maybe you could say other than Eastside Dave, but I think even more than Dave, Chris Stanley is the closest to like Ron Bennington's actual friend being on the show. Like a guy Ron would actually hang out with off air. You can tell that like he actually just likes shooting the shit with Chris Stanley, even more than Fez. Like Ron and Fez were essentially brothers. But like as far as like a guy that relates to Ron's interest, Chris Stanley was probably the closest there ever was, and that's why he's been there for as long as he has.
100%. He's always like Chris Stanley from when he started as an intern, but again, because Stanley really put in the effort, like eventually, like he was an intern who was basically like creating all the openings. He was creating bits, like he was doing Earl's job at one point as an intern. But I think Ron saw a little bit of himself in Chris Stanley.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, 100%.
And I mean, so my favorite, I didn't pull them because we've used them in past episodes about Ron and Fez, but I think my favorite Chris Stanley clips are him going at Fez, because you could tell there were times where he had just had it, where he, he was overwhelmed because unlike like Dave, for the majority of his time had either Earl Douglas or Chris Stanley there with him, whereas for a lot of Chris Stanley's run, Pepper Hicks, like he was the guy at producer and on mic, and Fez was talking even less. After Dave left, Fez was talking even less. So Chris was doing like double roles on both ends. So you could hear that frustration build up a lot in him.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. There was a short or a couple of months where I didn't really listen to Ron and Fez, and I went back, and all of a sudden I started hearing Chris Stanley, and I was like, where the hell is Fez? Like, I really thought Chris Stanley had taken over as the co-host, because there's
a lot of clips I listened to where someone will call in and be like, "Hey, I just started listening a few weeks ago. I thought the other guy was Fez. I thought he was the co-host."
It was ridiculous, and I think there are some YouTube videos out there where they'll play all of Fez's talking.
The Fez show. Yeah.
Yeah, Fez
they're
show.
about 48 seconds.
Yes! And that's through like a 4-hour show.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So that's all I have as far as the producers. You guys, if we miss someone, leave them in the comments. Maybe we'll do a sequel to this of some kind. Or a
Oh, there
follow-up.
are. I mean, there are so many producers that you can dive into. Like I said, Mikey D. Mikey D was a drummer who looked like Dee Snider, and he was the one who had the little girl Lene that they had on all the time.
Yeah.
And then, there's just so many.
Even like in the NEW days, I know there was like Hawk and Rory and Joe Poo and
Yes,
and all these
Wonder
guys.
Boy.
Yep. Yeah.
Joe Poo, I would love to understand what the hell that was, because he was a caller who did that voice. I eat my own poo. And then his son Joe Poo Jr., who would say, "I eat my own pee," or "I drink my own pee." But I never understood like if that guy was always putting on that voice or what.
He must have been. There's no way that's a human's voice, but people say that about my voice too.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
what I'm
don't know.
saying. You could say that about a lot of people's voices. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, if we missed someone, if we missed your favorite, put it in the comments. Let us know, and maybe we'll do another episode.
And then Rory, that's a whole thing.
Yeah,
that I don't understand, because
I don't know a ton about him, honestly. I know him from clips of listening to that era, but I haven't heard a ton of Rory focused stuff.
But as far as I understand, that's the producer or the person that Fez like really hit on or something.
I remember they were listing like their all-time favorite producers, and I think Fez chose Rory.
Yes.
Which stood out to me because I didn't really know who that was.
Well, yeah, there's something there where maybe Fez had revealed he had feelings for Rory or something. Like, I think this is all. I don't know what the whole story was. They've never completely gone into it.
Right.
But there is something involving Fez and Rory that I guess could be looked into. I don't know, but
interesting.
Something. Yeah, there's something there.
But we'll definitely talk about Ron and Fez again. So let us know in the comments. Like, share, tell a friend about this episode. If you know any Ron and Fez fans, let them know. And one more time, Tukey, where can people find you?
Please go to tukisoup.com. I do 2 shows. I do one as a masked wrestler called El Horrible. That's on Saturday mornings, called Be Dabbling Live with El Horrible. And I do Tukey Soup usually on Tuesday nights. And my show is very, very heavily Ron and Fez influenced. I mean, they've stolen so many of my ideas. Obviously they stole it years before I did it, but like even like Dabbler Gossip we do. I mean, everything.
Oh yeah, you use a lot of Ron and Fez like sound, like Spy Report and all that.
Yes.
Spy Report. Spy Report.
Yeah, there we go.
White people are so scared of black people.
Yeah, I've pulled.
That's what I love. I fall
done
asleep
so much.
hearing that clip so often because of all the old NEW stuff.
Oh yeah, that was a big one in the WNEW days.
And obviously go to blindmike.net as well if you want to get these shows early, if you want bonus episodes, all the wacky stuff we're doing on Patreon or for YouTube members, then become a member for as little as $5 a month. Or go to blindmike.net, support the show for free wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. And if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. We're trying to get over 10,000 subscribers by the end of the calendar year. So make sure you do that. We appreciate you. Oh, and also go to verygoodshow.org. Craig's here. I forgot.
I didn't want to get in the way at all today.
Yay! Go to verygoodshow.org. Support Rubbed Out and Very Good Show. And That's it. We'll talk to you guys next time on Why Are You Laughing?
I was born and raised in New York City, in a housing project way up in the hood. I dressed in dark clothing, so folks started calling me Black Earl. Oh, and they used to laugh about it, cause deep down they knew they called me that, cause I was as black as soot. I've always been a lazy man, a couch potato with a clicker in my hand. See, motivation I never had, hid in the shadows when the boss got mad. For 20 years I never got a raise. I'm 33 and I've never been late. I look busy but I'm not, I'm just walking around. I pick up some papers and I put them back down. One day I'm gonna stop paying my rent, live in a refrigerator box, never get out of bed. I'm Black Earl, a genuine lazy bum. I'll always make it through hard times at any W. Then one day some lame brains came and took O&A away. And at the age of 33, I felt like I was carrying the weight of the whole station on my shoulders. And Ron and Fez knew what I was going through. Every morning I'd unlock the door, lay down and I sleep a little more. Then I put away the bathroom key. Everybody was depending on me. I eat a chicken wing with lemonade. Lord, give me strength to make another day. Times I felt I couldn't go on. Push a button, throw a switch, answer the phone. Got lost in the van, I did my PSAs. 10 minutes work, gonna take me all day. I'm Black Earl, a genuine lazy bum. I'll always make it through hard times at any W. I could hear Scotzo say, Black Earl, you're a genuine lazy bum. You'll always make it through hard times at any W. Ken and Jeremy say, Black Earl, you're a genuine lazy bum. You'll always make it through hard times at any W.
Zip it up and zip it out.